In 1992, Christopher Alkenbrack was only 24 years old. He found out his life had taken a dramatic turn. He was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. The disease slowly took away his mobility, and by 2003, he was in the progressive stage of MS. He used a wheelchair about 30% of the time. Last spring, he went to Poland and had a controversial treatment to unblock his neck veins. The results were life-changing. He was able to walk again and even went horseback riding last summer. The question is, how's he doing now? Christopher Alkenbrack is on the line from his home in Wolfville.
Morning, Chris.
Hi, Don. How are you this morning?
Great.
Yes.
Well, Stanley put it pretty well. How's he doing now?
Well, I'm doing significantly better than I was last year. My quality of life has gone way up. What I did, Don, is this morning before the interview, I sat down and I made a little table of my symptoms. So the symptoms that have gone and have never returned are bladder dysfunction and heat intolerance. Okay, this summer will be the real test of that. The symptoms that are mostly gone are the numbness in my limbs, pain, spasticity, cramping, and spasms in my legs, drop foot, which comes back when I get tired and walk a little too much, brain fog, and fatigue. And the fatigue is starting to creep back a little more often. And the symptoms that come back to haunt me frequently are visual disturbances, which are, double vision, and nystagmus, which are these jerky little eye movements that MS patients get. So basically, I can say I've reversed the MS equation. Instead of MS robbing me ruthlessly of my life, I've set the clock back, I think, 5 to 7 years into what I, think I was like 5 to 7 years ago.
Looking at the notes of this interview, I saw the item about temperature intolerance, something I didn't know about. Explain that to me.
Many people with MS are very heat intolerant. It's actually a very common symptom. And basically, when on summer days, I would hide. I would go find air conditioning. I couldn't stand being in the heat of the day at all.
Really?
And that's a very frequent. Hot baths were just something out of, it wasn't even a possibility for me. I was, remember, back in 92 when I was diagnosed, I was in my sister's hot tub and I couldn't even get out. I didn't realize I had MS at the time. I couldn't get out, and when I did get out, my vision was double permanently.
Really? Do you still have good days and bad days, off days, on days?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why I say there are symptoms that come back and haunt me frequently. It's not a cure. It's not a be-all, end-all. It's a very effective treatment which gives back amazing quality of life.
You were on a fairly wide range of meds to treat the symptoms, really, more than the disease. How's that faring a year later?
I take no meds anymore. I have some pain medication so that when the spasticity and cramping gets bad in my legs, I take it. But rather than taking 2 a day, which I was taking before, I've taken about 17 or 18 capsules in the last 11 months.
And how many would you have been taking this time 14 months ago?
2 a day, 1 morning, 1 evening.
But you would have been taking other medications as well.
Well, I wasn't on any of the disease-modifying medications anymore because there are no disease-modifying medications for progressive forms of MS. So I had stopped, even before I went for the treatment, I had stopped the chemotherapy that I was on.
I think anybody who heard one of our early conversations with you after you got home and got sort of sorted out a bit was the reaction of your family, particularly of your daughter. This last year must have been a blessing.
Oh, it was. In fact, I think I've mentioned before that a year ago when my daughter was preparing to go back to school, she was starting her grade 9 year. Well, she was sitting and we were talking about when she was in kindergarten, and she said, "Dad, do you remember that when you were having all of those really bad attacks and Mom used to let me take half days off school to come and be your little nurse at the hospital?" And she said to me, she looked at me and with almost tears in her eyes, "Dad, now that you've had the procedure, I don't need to be your little nurse as much anymore." And basically, that's the only downside of this treatment is I'm expected to do more around the house now. And I have to go down every once in a while and dust the dust off my wheelchair in the basement that I have not used in the last year.
Are you monitoring, or can you monitor, whether or not there is any return of the blockage in the veins in your neck?
Yes, I did go back to Barrie, Ontario, and had a venous Doppler test in August, near the end of August last year, and it all came back clear that the blood was flowing properly, that there were no more stenoses in my jugulars, that the valves had not, there were not, I suspect, actually, I'll be honest, I suspect, Don, now that it's possible that there's something going on there because I'm getting more symptoms on a more frequent basis. So I do plan to go and have another Doppler test sometime this summer.
What did your neurologist say about all of this?
Well, they're not thrilled about the idea. I don't know why. I received a report from my neurologist, and it was basically written that any improvement that I had was only a perceived improvement, that there was no real improvement or no change on my EDSS score. The EDSS is the measure of disability. I can say that I disagree wholeheartedly with that evaluation, and my family doctor does too.
Because it's not so new and not so radical, we haven't heard as much about the debate. Do you feel it is moving forward in a way that you would approve of?
Well, I think it's moving forward, absolutely. It's becoming much more politicized in Canada. We have politicians talking about it. In Dr. Kirsty Duncan, who is the Liberal MLA for Etobicoke, Toronto, she talks about it frequently and brings it up in Parliament frequently. Our own senator here from Nova Scotia, Jane Cordy, the Honourable Jane Cordy, has brought it up as well to discuss in the Senate a couple of times. And, things are moving forward at a much faster pace. I think that patient advocacy has pushed this forward probably a number of years into where it would be if we just let the research go unmonitored.
Chris, good luck. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good to talk to you.
Yes, thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Christopher Alkenbrock lives in Wolfville. Last year, he went to Poland for a medical procedure, the controversial one, to unblock his neck veins as a treatment for MS.